Wow, I look gray. It's the light out here. I look like a vampire. Like I'm actually freshly shaven again. Doesn't happen very often. Welcome to another episode of Mail Call. My name is Rifle Chair. Welcome to the Rifle Chair channel. This is Mail Call 7, where I have an opportunity to look through some emails and respond to posts on the various videos that I've uploaded, and to just re-engage with you guys. Normally I do this sitting in front of a computer, but this time I'm going to do it sitting outside where it's snowing. I'm in an undercovered area right here. I'm surrounded by blue tarp, which is probably the reason why I have a bit of a bluish, grayish tinge to my face. No, I am not a vampire. Nosferatu. So here's some posts on my, some comments on my various videos. Some of them are, like, there's some old videos. They're years and years old, and they're still getting comments. And so I'm going to, obviously these are older videos that are still in circulation. People are still watching them. And so I'll comment on those ones as well. There's one here on In Praise of Slow, which is just a video where I don't say anything. I'm lying on a beach. I'm actually getting rained on, as I recall. But I just swivel the camera around so that you can see a bit of a different angle. Actually, that location was at the very northern shore of Haida Gwaii, which is an island system west of British Columbia in the Pacific Ocean on the other side of the Hecate Strait. And it's a magical place. If you ever have the opportunity to go to Haida Gwaii, previously known as the Queen Charlotte Islands. Now, if you have an opportunity to go to Haida Gwaii, which is the place where the Haida First Nation lives, incredible history, incredible people, incredible place. It's magical. I love going to Haida Gwaii. It's got some kind of healing quality. I don't know. I don't believe in those crystals and stuff like that. They're supposed to improve your energy or something like that. But whenever I go to Haida Gwaii and I sail back to the mainland, I feel supercharged. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, so I'm lying on the beach in Haida Gwaii. And I made just a short little video, about a minute long. And Jim made a comment here. Another one of your uploads that I never got notification for. Merry belated Christmas and Happy New Year. Yeah. Sometimes my videos don't show up in subscriber feeds. I don't know how that works or why that's happening. But, and I'm not going to tell you how to subscribe. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you hit that bell, I think you're supposed to get notifications. I don't know how it works. And in fact, I don't even ask people to subscribe to my channel. I don't. If you do, you do. Great. If you don't, that's fine too. But if you're missing my videos in your feed, I don't know what the answer to that is. I keep getting that from people. Paracord AR-15 job video I made. Geez, when was that? A long time ago. Anyway, I love information like this from actual mechanical savvies. That's from Robert. Trust me, I am not mechanically savvy. This is a little trick that I learned from Ryan Stacy. I'm pretty sure he was still in the BCR at that time. But he's the one that showed me the paracord trigger job on the AR-15. And I started doing it, and I started using it, and I did that to maybe 2 or 3 different AR-15s that I've had, which are all now grounded because of the prohibition here in Canada, which sucks. But we'll get them back because they're going to lose the OIC will be overturned by the courts because what they did was unconstitutional. But anyway, the AR-15, there's a real fast trigger job that you can do on it. It's actually a little bit labor intensive. It's not that bad though. You don't need to get files out or anything like that. All you need is a piece of paracord. And I'll see if I can put a link to that video in the feed here so that you guys can watch it. Anyway, so Ryan explained how this works, and it just made mechanical sense. You're inducing wear on your mil-spec trigger system or whatever trigger system you've got. I wouldn't be doing this with any of the Giselles or any of those other fancy trigger systems that you can kind of just drop in and you're good to go. This is your mil-spec trigger if you want to smooth it out a little bit. It's kind of a little trick the Canadian Army guys do with a Colt C7 A1s and A2s, and they've been doing it for years and years and years. You know, I think it's just one of those things that the sergeant major would kind of turn away from, because they're not actually modifying the rifle. They're actually just, and they're not really lightening the trigger. They're just making the break less gritty, if you know what I mean, by inducing wear, by mating those natural parts of the trigger. Anyway, I'll put a link to it's a system that works. It doesn't cost you anything except for maybe 30 minutes of your time sitting in front of the TV watching a movie. You just sit there and work it back and forth until it lightens up a bit. You're not lightening the pull. You're just making the break better. Why a lot of factory 8x57 ammo sucks video. I buy PPU for plinking and for letting others shoot, then save the better quality brass for more proper target shooting. Yeah, I guess, if you're going to have somebody come over and shoot your rifles, you're going to introduce them to shooting, then that's a good way of doing it, isn't it? You shoot the cheap stuff until you get the skills and drills to be able to make use of the good quality ammunition. Plus, shooting is expensive, isn't it? And so, it's one thing is the cost to acquire the rifles, but it's the second part is the ammunition, and in many cases the ammunition is the expensive part. So yeah, use your ammunition wisely. Good idea. Another one here for the Paracord AR-15 trigger job. Yeah, with all these guys saying, "Wow, this made a big difference." Yeah. And praise of slow video, again, the North Shore of Haida Gwaii. One day, one rifle chair. That's the one day I want. By Brimstone Footsteps. One day, one rifle chair. Sounds like a day of coaching. That's what it sounds like. I'm not opposed to doing that. If you're nearby, let me know. Pat Dexter, great. This is on the Inherit a Lee Enfield video. Great video. I inherited mine from my dad. He fought in World War II and the Korean War. I remember as a boy in the 1960s, the local Legion Hall had a room full of them, and maybe other types. I'll have to get it out and see what I can find out. Thanks for the video. So yeah, your Lee Enfield has probably got all kinds of different distinguishing or identifying marks on it, and the British, or I should say the Commonwealth, used a marking pattern or a marking system that would identify kind of where the rifle went and what it ended up doing. And there weren't theater stamps or anything that effect, but whenever something had to come in to depot to be worked on, somebody usually left a mark to say that it occurred. Yeah. Enfield hunting rifles and Cam-Pro bullets video. You're right. It was never built as a precision rifle. It just became one over time. For a weapon to stay in service for 100 years is a testament to the rifle's quality. I used it in the NATO converted version back in the early 80s. Even with the original iron sights, they were able to hit a target at 1,000 yards. In modern terminology, it was a John Wayne gun. Strong and tough and took no poo. The recoil is all backwards, which made slings and scopes awesome. I'm not quite sure what you mean there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Classic but true. Well done, good vid, and very informative. So, many number 4 Lee Enfields were converted to 7.62 NATO. I'm not entirely sure if the chambers were cut to 7.62 NATO or 308 Winchester. That would be an interesting thing to test, but people enjoyed shooting them, that's for sure. DCRA had a bunch of them converted using the kind of a convention system for bedding that was adopted and became the mainstream for those competitions, and many regimental shooting teams would also adopt the DCRA bedding convention for their shooting teams. What a brilliant age! What a brilliant time! However, in those matches, the DCRA matches, your ammunition was issued to you, so you never really knew what you were going to get. And IVI ammunition at the time was not great. But yeah, they're very good rifles. They're very good rifles. Inherit Lee Enfield. Lots of Lee Enfield comments. My Inherit Lee Enfield video. My grandfather gave me a 303 when I was 12 years old. Awesome big game rifle. 12 years old, he got his first Lee Enfield. So that is a Canadian heritage. That's Canadian traditions, right? And we're talking about grandfathers and fathers handing rifles down to their sons and their daughters. This is Canadian tradition. This is Canadian heritage. The Lee Enfield rifle. 14 by 16 foot wall tent, pros and cons. It's not just one mouse. If you see one, you're already infested. I don't necessarily agree with that. I did put a video out on rodent control using the logger's trap, which is a bucket with a piece of baling wire across the top, and you put a beer can covered in peanut butter. You put a little bridge going up to the side of the bucket. The mouse jumps from the edge of the bucket onto the beer can and goes into the bucket, which is full of water. They drown, they die. And there have been circumstances where they call it loggers camps because you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're in a loggers camp, and there frequently are a lot of mice. And so they put those out, and you gotta monitor them because they can overfill if there's so many mice in the area. But if you got 2 or 3 of them, they work just fine too. But yeah, those loggers traps, I mean, they can fill up with mice so badly that you gotta bury them basically, because they become an attractant for things like bears, coyotes, and wolves. You don't want those larger animals coming into your camp because you have attractants out. Basically, what the bucket of mice becomes an attractant for larger animals. So I got to stay on top of them. The Rokon Trailbreaker video. Okay, 5 years later, do you still like this thing? I still have it. Let's put it that way. I'm having a little bit of carburetor problems right now. I'm probably going to have to tear the carb off. I got a feeling that there was some water infiltration in my fuel, and I haven't been using it a lot. It needs a proper shakedown cruise. The thing needs to get nice and hot, but I'm having carburation problems, and so I'm not sure what to do about that yet. But I'm going to have to tear that thing apart, and I am not mechanically inclined. But what I do know is that jets get deposits in them, and if you don't run them a lot, they just clog up and they don't run well. So that's probably what it is. I will say though that the air filter has these 2 bolts that hold the air filter on the air intake of the carburetor, and those nuts that hold the air intake on loosened off and got sucked into the carburetor. And that was bad. It took me a little while to get them out, and it's never run the same since. So I probably did some damage to the carburetor because of that as well. But I still own it now, and if it was running better, I'd be using it more. But 2006, it's 14 years old now, and it needs an overhaul. That is for sure. There's one from Bruce. I've been a subscriber for years and years. I think pretty much, maybe a year or 2 after I came online and built myself a YouTube channel, he started commenting on it, and I think he's got multiple sclerosis. And I've been watching his, reading his posts, and he's obviously having difficulty putting the, typing, because I'm sorry, Bruce. I'm sorry that you're inflicted with that. Anyway, he's talking about the In Praise of Slow video. I'm surprised there's so many comments on that video. I mean, I don't say anything in it. Anyhow, he says, nature, the slow, the subtle, the profound and true, whether in the forest, the form of a forest, mountain, sea, night sky, nature says to all men, I was here long before you were born, and will be here when you have long since passed from human memory. Who are you again, human? It's not an urgent message, but insistent. Well done, you, for listening so intently to nature and finding peace. Thanks, Bruce. Peace, solitude, they come in small packages. And I think for a lot of people, especially now in the pandemic, is that what's a quote I heard a long time ago? There's some people out there who can't stand their own company. And it took me a while. I had to sit there and think about that for a while. People who can't stand their own company, they need to be around other people. I've always been kind of the person that I actually enjoy my own company. I've been too busy to do these kinds of different things, but I used to do things like when I was a kid. I'd make models of my favorite cars and trucks. And I think it was 1997 was the last time I bought myself a model. And I started building it the other day. It's a 1966 Ford Fairlane GT. See, actually, and the reason why I bought that model is because I own the real car. 1967 Ford Fairlane GT-A. It was an automatic, Gran Turismo automatic, and it had a 390 in it. It was Ford Apple Red and Craigar rims, and oh wow, what a great car! The pavement in front of my parents' house was black. That was me. That was my fault from doing peel outs and whatnot. Anyway, so I bought this model, and just yesterday I started building it. So I've got most of the pieces spray painted. I don't have any paint, so I got to go buy some modeling paint now in order to get this thing finished. But after 1997, that was a long time ago. 23 years ago, I've had this model, and I have only started building it yesterday. You find peace when you can. And I found that one way to do that is reloading. Is another one. It's another way to how should we say, to forget about the worries of the world. Just let those things disappear for the moment. Concentrate intently on what you're doing in the moment. Forget about all that other stuff. Concentrate on this. And then what I've discovered is that over time you get into a situation where you actually start to solve the problem subconsciously without even realize you're doing it, because you're focusing on something else. Subconsciously, you're solving problems. Consciously, you're focusing on the item in front of you. And it's incredible how the subconscious works. But being able to let go, Another one is that I learned is yoga. Yoga really helps. And you can do this anywhere. Yoga, once you get it figured out up here, is incredible for being able to kind of just lower your stress levels. So, for example, it's essentially a breathing exercise, deep breathing, and it's controlled inhalation and controlled exhalation. Deep breaths. You base your ability to concentrate or to relax based on breathing. Okay, and what they try to ask you to do is to focus on the image of a light bulb or something like that, or a candle. For me, I try to focus on an image of the full moon when I'm doing these breathing exercises. And I actually had an out-of-body experience, and it scared me, so I snapped out of it. And I've never done that since, but it works. If you get good enough at it, it works. Savage Rascal 22 long rifle. That's the one where buckshot was plinking at steel at about 45 meters with Savage Rascal with open sights. It's actually got a really simple peep sight on it. Great training rifle for kids. 22 Savage Rascal. Jose says, "You're a good dad, Rifle Chair." Well, I'd like to think so. Not perfect, but I do my best. Thanks for saying that, by the way.
You nailed it. Good shooting there,
okay.
Buckshot.
If you could only own one rifle. So this is a video that was filmed in October 2017, where Yodad, Tudinam, and I, we made some certain projections and forecasts as to what conceivably could happen in the next few years, and all of them have come to pass. And the question is, hello, Rifle Chair. This is one of the 12. How are you and these gents doing? Do you still have the FN? How was it shooting? So that was an FN 98 Husqvarna, an 8x57 with open sights. It was never drilled and tapped. A total stock rifle, and it shot really well. I shot 195 grain Hornady. These are basically your plus P loads. They're singing right along, unpleasant to shoot. 195 grain Hornady Spitzer point, so they're not small bullets, projectiles, singing right along at the velocity that the caliber was invented for. Okay, so the point of impact is the same once you actually put the proper ammunition to it, not this cheap stuff, this anemic factory ammunition. Anyway, I think overall for the situation and talking about how we're doing, I think that overall for the situation and the conditions that we find ourselves in today is that we're doing okay. We're doing okay. All three of us. We do keep in touch. We talk to each other fairly frequently, episodically, but we're mentally, physically doing all right. Not much more to say about that. I did actually end up selling that FN 98 though. Swiss Alpenflage Taz 83 poncho for hunters. This is an old video. I'm not quite sure when I made it, but it was early in the Rifle Chair genre. Ed asks, I've always wanted to ask, how do you care for your rifle before and after hunting in such a downpour? Thanks. Yeah, so I suppose it really there's two factors. One is just the precipitation itself. 3 is the detritus that working or running a rifle in the bush for long periods of time has a tendency to get into your rifle. If you have any fouling in the rifle, that's a real problem because it absorbs water and it sits in that spot in your bore, whether it's powder fouling or other types of fouling, copper fouling. And also just coming in cold to warm temperatures. Like you bring a cold rifle into a warm room, you get lots of condensation on it. So if you've had a cold day of shooting out on the range, it doesn't have to be that cold, it's just cold enough. It doesn't have to be winter, it could even be summertime, like maybe you're at high elevations or something like that. It's colder. Anyway, you bring a cold rifle into a warm environment, you get condensation. Just kind of like when you take a frozen beer glass out of the freezer and put it on the counter within minutes, it's sweating. You get condensation on it. So what I do is, it is essentially when you have a rifle that is that badly fouled, especially if it's rain or snow, you have to do a 100% teardown. You have to. The rifle is totally saturated with water. The wood is saturated. The metal is saturated. Standing it up against a wood stove might be a good way of doing it. You're going to dry it out pretty well doing that. But really, honestly, you should wipe it down, give it a good oiling. at least a pull through. Even if it's just condensation going from cold to warm, give it at least a pull through and a wipe down. Shit hits the fan in the Lee Enfield rifle video, another really old one. TJL Adventure says, you talked about Lyman reloading and the Huntman, I think it was modified cartridge, but I can't find it either anywhere. Can you cite online so I can order those things? We would really like to switch from AR and shotgun to the Lee Enfield for my go-to. Whoa, that's interesting. Lyman 310 tool. Okay, you get the Lyman 310 tool, which is basically a hand tool, and you can get the dies that are made to fit into that tool. I think they actually had a press system that Lyman sold once upon a time. These are old systems. I mean, I think these were popular in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. But they're out there. You can get them for 45, 70, 30, 30, 303 British. Pretty much name any caliber, they made it. Removing stuck case from your sizing die video. Jesse writes, this was so simple and it worked. Perfect. Thanks for the video. Yeah, I got to do that again. I got another stuck case stuck in a die. This one is 7.65 Argentinian. And it's been sitting there for about a year and I haven't got the case out yet. I need to go through the same process. I got to remember how to do it myself so I can do it again. The Jungle Carbine Thumper number 5. As a veteran, I can tell you having a shorter weapon in a jungle fighting environment is preferable and far outweighs any perceived loss of accuracy caused by a wandering zero. Most of the fighting is carried out within ranges of 100 meters maximum, so accuracy is less of an issue. Problems only arose later in the British forces, while the British forces were fighting at longer ranges in a lot of post-war action such as Cyprus, Palestine, and Aden. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, certainly in the coastal forests of British Columbia, you frequently can't see past more than 10 feet in front of your face, especially if you're in salal bush like this. I mean, kind of the understory of the forest can be a tremendous obstacle to just moving. You know, each and every single footstep in front of you is a challenge, and depending on kind of what site series or biogeoclimatic classification, kind of the area in the terrain or the topography that you're in, kind of lower valley, these mountainous valleys with lush vegetation growing in the valley bottoms, it can be really tough just moving around. So if you're going to be having any close range shots, for example, black bears or grizzly bears, they're going to be close. And having something handy is uber important. Warrior Mindset, Lieutenant Colonel Jeff Cooper, U.S. Marine Corps video. The issues discussed by Colonel Cooper are as relevant today as they were back then, maybe more so with the new president. I don't know. I have no idea what 2021 is going to give us. Yeah, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Anyway, that's a great video, the warrior mindset. So he doesn't really specifically talk about the warrior mindset itself, but he basically is. That's essentially what the premise of the video is. Is it about it's your mental? It's the, how shall we say? It's not what's in your hand that is important. It's the software between your ears that is important. I mean, you give somebody a guitar, that doesn't make them a musician. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, you give somebody a rifle or a handgun, it doesn't make them a marksman. They have to develop the mental muscle. Robert says, this is a good rifle sling video. That was the Ron Brown slings. Ooh, man, they're so nice. I need to get one. Rifle Chair, a few questions for you. I have a Lee Enfield number 4 Mark 1 sporterized rifle and a number 5 Mark 1 jungle carbine. By the way, they were never called a jungle carbine. They were just called the number 5. I don't know where jungle carbine came from, because these rifles weren't just used in jungles. I mean, they were used all over the place. But anyway, one came with no sling and the other had a sling but was so worn out that it just fell apart. What length sling should I get for them? Also, what scope are you using on your number 4 Mark 1? as what size millimeter and so on. How is the scope attached to the rifle, and what size are the rings? Would the Bad Ace Tactical be a good mount for the scope? I don't know the Bad Ace Tactical. I know that there was a scope mount which was that you would drill and tap onto the rifle, and it was a pattern 1913 rail, and it would go from the rear sight mount well forward of the receiver bridge, and it was elevated over the chamber, slightly over the wood. So it was mounted far enough forward on the rifle where you could mount an optic, so it wasn't, because quite frequently you have to back up in order to get you can't get the eye relief because the scope has to be set so far back on those no gunsmithing mounts. I don't recommend the no gunsmithing mounts. If it's a Lee Enfield, if you're going to scope it, you got to drill and tap it. I don't recommend you do that for a full military rifle. Get a sporter rifle and do it then. That's fine. As for the slings, 52 inch. That's what I use. They're a 52 inch length sling. We're talking about the pattern 1907 slings, 52 inch. That's what I use. You can get 50 and 54, I think. But if you can get a 52 inch, it gives me all of the how shall we say, adjustability for different shooting positions that I would want. For example, if you're going to be shooting upslope, you may have the sling configured differently than if you're shooting downslope, or if you're sitting in the sitting position versus the prone position. You may make adjustments in between depending on what your kind of your conditions are. You're going to obviously, your zero is going to have to change for all of those as well. That's the to borrow a naval term, a firing solution in your rifle. It's not just your sight settings or your point of aim, but how you've got the sling configured if you're going to use it as a support. So I use, if I buy a pattern 1907, it's going to be at least 52 inches long. Okay, the CZ557 range, get some. This is, this video has seen a lot of views, actually. Yeah, it's strange. CZs need a break-in period to be smooth. I used to have a CZ550 varmint, and when I first got it, it was extremely stiff and gritty. After 5,000 rounds, I'd have to say it was one of my slickest rifles. 5,000 rounds? I'd say probably, a case of ammo. Maybe, but 5,000 rounds seems excessive in order to get your rifle slicked up. So what I like to use is it's a non-impregnating JB paste or something like that. I get it from Brunel's, but essentially it's a bore lapping compound that is just slightly abrasive, just slightly. I would not recommend using any kind of, on a CZ product, I would never recommend using something as hard as a valve grinding compound. I would not recommend anything like that for any modern rifle. I think it'll take off too much material and you won't like it. But that non-impregnating bore paste that you can get from Brunel's might be perfect for you. Just sit there and maybe remove the bolts internals so you don't get mung all over them, and just sit there and run the bolt back and forth. Don't engage the lugs, just go back and forth inside the action. And just do that over and over and over and over again. Put a movie on, go watch Star Wars and just run the action back and forth. And by the time you're done, you didn't need to expend 5,000 rounds to achieve the same thing. You're just inducing wear in the right places. But I agree. I mean, the C7557 range, I couldn't really run the rifle very fast. Exceedingly accurate rifle, but I couldn't run it fast because the bolt had a tendency to bind. But I'm sure that would have been a problem that I could have solved if I had chosen to do that. By the way, the 557 range, I can't find them anymore. You see them eventually pop up used, but I think that was kind of a flash in the pan, one-time opportunity to acquire that rifle. I don't see them anymore. I've replaced the 5.57 with the Tikka CTR, which I do actually prefer to the 5.57. Consequences of an AR-15 ban. So this is a big ticket one for me. I talked about this before. Did I build this video? I think I made this video before the OIC came out, May 1st, 2020. Ted says here, one of the things that annoy me is that reservists actually use their rifles to train outside of annual qualification to get trigger time to practice for said qualification. It's about readiness and practice. Tomorrow we could be on an airplane. In a year we could be engaged in hostility with a major power, and civilians could be drafted. The point of CMP is to promote marksmanship. And what better platform than something with identical weight, handling, and operation to my service weapon? The military gives you a weapon for qualification day and basic training. That's it. That is woefully inadequate to what I could engage with in a dire situation. Those that fought in the world wars were carpenters, farmers, shopkeepers, and laborers, not soldiers. Very true, and it's not just the military that this is affected. So Canada has prohibited the AR-15 and a whole schwackload of other firearms that look like it, citing that it is a military-grade firearm. Now, here's the thing: do you know of any military in the world that is equipping their soldiers with AR-15s? No, they're not military-grade. Anyway, they're just semi-automatic rifles that resemble the appearance of an M16 variant or like a C7, for example. They visually look similar, but they do not have full auto capacity or burst capacity like a proper military rifle would have. But so the government has prohibited these, and so we have all of these Canadian Army, Air Force, Navy reservists out there who use AR-15s. They acquire their own personal AR-15 because they have the same muscle memory as their issued weapon, and so they use these in competitions and for their own personal training and development needs. And now they can't do that. Now the one time a year qualification where you get your 200 rounds of ammunition, which is your allotment for the year, how are you going to be able to develop your skills and drills based off a one-time range day? You know, out of 365 days of the year, you're actually going to be on the range once. How are you going to be proficient at the skill of arms? You're not. So by this OIC, we're going to see the proficiency of our reservists tank when it comes to skill at arms, and it's not just the military; it's the RCMP as well, as they're using what they refer to as, if a civilian owns it, it's considered to be an assault rifle, but if the RCMP uses it, it's called a patrol rifle, a patrol carbine. It's interesting how they weaponize language, isn't it? The anti-gunners and the liberals. Absolutely terrible. It damages our country in so many different ways. I get so mad just thinking about it. BREDA of Italy, M1 Garand, the Bellissima video. If you're looking to source parts, Ted says, I wonder if Fulton Armory would be a good choice. They make brand new national match M14s and M1 Garands. They have a full list of spare parts listed on their website, including new Criterion barrels. They're the only company that I know of off the top of my head that makes brand new M1s. They sell national match parts. My understanding is that they have a very good reputation. I'm not sure how you obtain this rifle, but wow. Yeah, so Ted, so I'm in Canada, so I don't know about being able to get parts across the border. If it's any kind of a fire alarm related part or component coming across the border that has a tendency to receive a lot of scrutiny, and you're pretty much guaranteed your package is going to be opened up by border services and inspected. And so the rules are nebulous to me as well. So, but thank you for letting me know about that. I will say though that thanks to a really cool person, I now have an M1 Garand, and I have it here. This is it. That is black walnut, brand new Dupage USA black walnut stock. I think I've shown this in one of my previous videos. It remains unfired by me. This is rifle 274. Now I'm showing the serial number because this is going to be a regular cast member on the Rifle Chair channel. This is a BREDA Italian receiver. Anyhow, rifle 274 does not have a name yet, but this is a low numbered receiver. It's wearing a new Criterion barrel, chrome line 308 Winchester. Got a Winchester bolt. It's one of the shorter Winchester bolts because of head spacing. A chrome line bore is a little bit trickier. You can't give it a full through ream to set for head space because it's chrome lined. The chamber is chrome lined. But this rifle was hand built for me by a guy by the name of Richard, and I'm going to give his contact information down below. He's a kind of a machinist millwright who has gone into the world of gunsmithing, and he's assembled this rifle for me. He has test fired it. There are no case deformations. Primers look good, and there are no failures to fire, failures to feed. And he has phosphated, manganese phosphated all of the metal components, hand fitted them, timed them, made sure everything was good to go, and test fired it, had no problems. And so now it comes down to me is that I'm going to start shooting this rifle. I'm going to obviously start a little bit slowly. I'm going to break the rifle in, going to gauge the brass and see what the headspace is like, and going to take my time, be nice and slow. Going to clean it. I'll use the Elijah barrel break-in process for this thing. So for every single round that I fire out of this rifle, I'll clean it, and I'll do that for 10 rounds, and then every 5 rounds thereafter, I'll clean it. You know, so if there's any metal components or pieces or milling material or any kind of metal shavings that may be in the system, I'm cleaning that stuff out so that I'm not damaging the rifle. Okay, and so I'll do that as part of a break-in process before I even consider about production shooting. Now, of course, I'm going to start zeroing it. Initially, I think I'm going to start running. Initially, I'll start with Hertenberg ammunition from Austria, and then I'll probably shoot some PPU out of it and just compare. And eventually, I think maybe I will start to hand load for it. But right now, I'm just looking forward to getting it out to the range. But thanks for the info on Fulton Armory. Anyway, Richard built this rifle for me, and I'm really stoked. I'm really looking forward to getting out there and shooting it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to shoot this in the Cabin Fever Challenge. I'll talk about that a little bit later. How are we doing for time here? We're at 48 minutes. Okay. Anyway, Rifle 274 has joined the Rifle Chair inventory, and I am totally stoked. I'm pretty sure that's a Canadianism, isn't it? Stoked. Anyway, all of the parts are post-war Springfield Armory, with the exception of the barrel. So the trigger assembly, gas system, everything is Springfield Armory. With the exception of the trigger, he's put an HR thin trigger in it. So, and the trigger is incredible. It's beautiful. Okay, I keep getting here's a comment on codename Arrow, the Bosnian sniper. And it serves me right, because I commented on a rifle. I made a video on it was a Yugoslavian stamped, manufactured by Zasfa Model 98 with double set triggers and a Zrak scope, mounting pads on it. And they were used, I mean, there's pictures all over the internet of Bosnians using these rifles to defend to defend themselves from Serbs. And I get a lot of Serbian people commenting on that channel. Correction of a misstatement. It is not a civil war, but the aggression of Serbia on the sovereign Republic of Bosnia and Herzegovina. What you came across in the title was just imposed by the aggressor to wash their bloody hands. So, she'll walk around eggshells on that subject. Was the conflict a civil war? Let me know down below. What's your opinion? Here's one, the World War II Royal Corps of Signals, Part 1. My father served with the Royal Corps of Signals from 1939 until 1946. He was attached to the 11th Armored Division, the Black Bulls, but he was always incredibly proud of his military career. And I keep his medals and cap badge in a place of honor. Certecito, swift and sure. Yeah, my grandfather was attached to the 26th Indian Division, and they fought against the Japanese in Burma, in the jungles of Burma. And he didn't particularly like the Japanese. It was terrible. When you come across your own troops that have been tied to trees and used for bayonet practice. Okay, here's one on number 4 Enfield bedding styles by Dalen. Just got a sported number 4 Mark 1 for $150. That's a good price, I think. The stock fits tight in the draws and the bore is very clean. It's sported, of course. I'll be turning it into a sported sniper rifle since it already has the scope base. It's going to be fun to bed the stock and get her nice and tight with Knox form bed. Also, mid-bed, then free float. Good for you. Give it a try. Give it a go. As soon as you start getting into sporterized wood, you pretty much need to have barrel contact at the end of the forestock. Now these areas were never really, unless it's a professionally sporterized by Parker Hale, they'll have contact, most of them will have contact at the end of the forestock, right here. I'll use an M1 Garand to demonstrate. But if it's sporterized, the wood will only come up to right about here somewhere. You should have contact with the barrel at this area here. There should be a block here. Right? These rifles were never really intended to be fully floated. I would call them partially free floated. You're only making contact with the Knox form here, and you'll have a block here. Because we're dealing with a rifle with only one action screw. It needs to be kind of like a triangle on either side of the action screw. There needs to be contact here and contact here. There needs to be 3 points of contact in the bedding system of the Lee Enfield. And if you're able to enable that, you should have no problems. Just make sure that you realize that you understand is the height of the action inside the wood is going to have a dramatic impact. It'll turn your two-stage trigger into a one-stage trigger, which you want to avoid. The higher you move that receiver in the action, if you're going to build up the bedding compound so it sits higher in the action sits higher in the wood, then you're going to have trigger problems, unless it's a number 4 Mark II iteration, because the trigger is attached to the receiver. not the trigger guard. Oh, and here's it. This going back. If you could only own one rifle, lots of people are commenting. I mean, some great choices out there that people are saying. If it was me, I'd use this. If it was me, I'd use this. A lot of you out there are saying, for me, it would be a 22 long rifle. And I can see that. Actually, I can also see that if you live in a metropolitan place, kind of a built-up area, you're not going to have a lot of wildlife to eat. So what you might actually have is, I don't know, something like a 17 HMR or maybe a 17 caliber pellet gun. You're going to be shooting at pigeons or maybe rats, cats. I don't know. What are you going to eat? Maybe a 22 is a good choice, depending on where you are. Bugs me. Can the M1A shoot round nose bullets? That's an M1A rifle video I made. Those things are now prohibited in Canada. I couldn't make that video today if I wanted to. But he says, I know round nose have been used for hunting forever. I've always thought the 170 grain round nose partition nozzler would be great. When I lived in Alaska, I always bought the 165 partition nozzler at 2,800 feet per second and 30-06. It worked perfectly for moose. If I was hand loading, I would try a round nose. I had a buddy that loaded 220 grain round nose in his 30-06. I love the M1A, but it's not legal in Maryland. Thanks. Not legal in Maryland, the M1A? I don't know what the hell's going on, man. But this way something dark comes. But yeah, I would totally hunt moose with a 165 grain nozzler partition in a 30-06 as well. No problem at all. The gray bullet, good choice. Great velocity. Really good choice. And maybe what I'll touch on now is, as you guys know, 2020 is coming to a close. I forgot my coffee here. It's probably cold. I'll have to microwave that. So as you guys know, we're coming to the end of 2020. And in that time, I actually made public 37 videos. So a total of 37 videos for this year, and that is lower than what I would normally do. I would usually have more videos, but not too many more. So about 10 to 15 of them were never uploaded. But there's some good news. As we move to 2021, we have the Cabin Fever Challenge coming. And we have two new division leaders this year. We have Rick Nethery. Maybe I shouldn't be announcing this because I'm not actually the match official for this year. That's going to Orgear. He's going to run it this year, which I thank him for because it is a lot of work. And let's leave it at that. It's a lot of work. So I'm really thankful that somebody stepped in to help. In fact, I'm really, really grateful that all of the division leaders that have come in. This has just been great. I never expected it to be as great as it is, to actually be working with a highly motivated team of professionals. To one degree or another, almost all of them have served in the military. So we have Rick Nethery, who's U.S. Marine Corps retired. He's coming online. He's going to be one of our division leaders for this year, which is awesome. We also have Karju, which is a reservist from Finland. I believe he's a tanker. Super awesome guy. He's into service rifle competitions, and he's super handsome, by the way. He's, out of all of us, he's the most handsome. Finnish guy. He's got just super handsome dude. And so we're running a new team this year. Yandel 31. He's unable to take part this year because he's busy, but otherwise the entire cast of members is there, and I'm really looking forward to it, guys. I've already got some of my I'm going to be nominating some people. Now, I've got two people that I'm going to nominate. They both agreed to do it. Last year, or the year before that, I nominated somebody who said they would do it, and then they didn't do it. So if I nominate somebody, I hope they do it, because I hope they challenge it, because it's fun, but I understand if they don't, because you never know. I mean, all of our ranges could be shut down because of this wave of COVID-19. I don't know. Plus, there's this new version that's come out now. So essentially what they've got, this is a segue from the subject, but essentially what they've got is a disease that they can ramp up or turn down depending on what it is and how it is that they want to be able to control the population. They can either ramp it up or tone it down, and just a never-ending series of viruses that are going to kill you, and death is waiting around a corner waiting to get you. No, if you know what I mean. And so that's what they've done. That's what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying that COVID-19 is fake, because it is not fake. It is very real, and people are dying as a result of it. I think that we're essentially, all of us are going to get it eventually, whether it's through a vaccination or what. But our rifle ranges might be shut down by the time CFC 2021 kicks off, and I don't know what we're going to do. I know last year it was definitely impacted the competition, because ranges were shut down. People couldn't go out and shoot. So the only people that were able to shoot were their austere ranges out in the bush. And generally it was farmers. Farmers that shot last year, because they have large pasture lands and they can set up an austere range easy. But let's keep our fingers crossed that our ranges don't shut down and we can still shoot it. But I understand if that's the reason why people aren't shooting it, I totally get it. But let me tell you, I got a weird feeling that people are going to have cabin fever this winter, and they're going to need to get out and breathe some fresh air, bang off some ammunition, and poke some holes in paper, do the best they can. And that's all we can expect. I know that I'm definitely out of shape after, since, I guess I've been in isolation to a large extent since March, April, and I haven't had anywhere near the amount of physical activity that I would normally have. So I need to start going to the gym and doing more push-ups and taking better care of myself, that's for sure. And I know there's a lot of other people out there that are experiencing the same thing that I am, so you're not alone. But I've already got two people that I intend to nominate, and they've already accepted, so I'm looking forward to seeing them. They're both on Instagram. I think one of them is on YouTube, but I'm going to keep their identity secret for now. Anyway, that's it, folks. That's mail call number 7. I hope you're all doing great. Hang in there, eh? Hang in there. Cheers. Maple Leaf up.